Can you break us down? And in the end, it was frustration, and you could see that from the manager at the end.
Neil talks about the type of game that Liverpool would have wanted. We spoke about that before the match in terms of intensity and the pace to it, and how Salzburg have played 8 matches, 6 friendlies and 2 competitive games, and it wasn't one of those friendlies that I'm sure you've both played in where after sort of 60 minutes everyone's strolling around playing at walking pace.
You could see that from the off. I said to you, didn't I? Well, said at half time during the analysis, I'm really enjoying it. It was quite an open game. There was lots of movement, lots of pace about it. Both teams were looking for goals. There was no one sitting back. You know, they really didn't, weren't really bothered about Liverpool having the ball, but at times they broke really, really well. It was quite open, like I said. So yeah, it made it to be a good spectacle. And like Mel said, for Liverpool, the purpose is obviously fitness. It's pre-season. It still needs to serve a purpose for that, and it did. And you're right, they're ahead of us. They played a game already this season in their domestic league, and it showed at times. You could see the sharpness, and there was a bit of grit about them as well. You could tell they didn't want to lose. They were at it. Maybe pride as well, playing in front of the home fans. But for Liverpool, I thought they matched them as well.
I think we have to remember as well, I mean, going into a game, you want to be fresh. You want to be ready for that game. It's pre-season for us. So their season started. They would have prepared for this game like it was a normal game. Now for us, the boys have had a relentless training session period going into this game. That will not be the case for any Premier League game this season. So you have to bear that in mind, how tough the training has been before the minutes for the boys today.
Let's have a look at the chances that Liverpool created in the second half, Jason. As you said, a lot of them did come sort of final half an hour when some of the big boys were on, as you can see with Thiago starting this move, and he's got Diaz, Henderson, Firmino and Salah ahead of him.
Well, look how many people they got in the box. They've closed down the space in case they lose it. In case of the counter, so they can press, but obviously they weave a bit of magic and they get the shot in. Was it Diaz finally getting the shot away? He was a handful when he come on, Diaz. There was a couple of opportunities where I thought he made the wrong choice, but in the main he was always around. Look, he's there trying to close the ball down. Salah again getting on, driving into the box, gets his head up. I actually think he does try and play this across the goal. I think it's a bit of a shot cross. But you got to give them, credit as well. They defended well at times. They got a lot of numbers back behind the ball. But when the sort of the big players come on, we call them the big hitters, don't we? When they come on, you could tell, there was more of an intensity about it, and more quality as well. The decision making was better, wasn't it?
How many saves did the goalkeeper have to make second half? We've seen all these examples, aren't we? Now, if he wasn't making a save, it was the defenders getting the bodies in the way, trying to get a block at goal. It was relentless pressure as we tried to find that equalising goal. Found the space for Fabinho well as the ball came back in, just didn't quite connect with it the way they wanted to. You wanted that maybe to fall to a Diaz, Salah inside the penalty area.
There was so many of them opportunities where you just think on another day that's going to fall for him.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about the saves, Mels. This is probably the pick of them, isn't it? Because Trent, as he so often does, catches it beautifully.
Got in the top bin, absolutely. I mean, look at all the players back there. You're thinking, how have we not put that in? Again, it's desperate defending at times from Salzburg, and you could see how much it meant to them. Pre-season friendly, but they were absolutely buzzing. The atmosphere was up. And they're the sort of team we may well face at some point in the Champions League. I mentioned it before, it could be a pot 3, pot 4 sort of team that we come up against, and a good example of what might be ahead for us in the Champions League.
I think we spoke after the Manchester United game about margins when we were talking about the high line, but it's the same going forward, isn't it? And that Luis Diaz goal that was disallowed for offside, you can see he's saying, just that little bit quicker I want the ball.
Yeah, and to be honest, Firmino's the perfect player to have on the ball. That's what he does best. He comes deep, he turns, and he's got willing runners. He's always had that, hasn't he, with Mane and Salah. Now obviously it's personnel change. He's got Diaz who's on his way. Look at him, he's on his way, but he just holds the pass that little split second, which is not like him. His decision making, I mean, that's so frustrating as a forward, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Bobby would play that ball, he just takes that touch, and that's the difference, offside and not offside.
Yeah, maybe one of the kids you could kind of go, yeah, I get that, they want to make it safe, but Firmino gets on the ball, you expect him to turn, he sees the runner, he sees them things, and his way to pass is usually spot on. I mean, his way to pass was spot on, he just hesitated, which obviously was that split second which caused the offside.
I think he's saying rapido, Luis Diaz, which means give it to me a little bit quicker. But we've spoken again this pre-season about what we can add to Luis Diaz's game, which is not a lot because he's done pretty well so far. We touched on him in the review show on Monday, but being a touch more clinical. Wow, we've got a player on our hands if he can score even more goals and be more ruthless.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for him when he arrived in January was how is he going to settle in, and he settled in absolutely brilliantly well. You know, we've lost Mane in the summer, but we're all excited about the season, about what Diaz can produce, maybe Núñez as well. And Diaz is the sort of player who can make that run in behind. I felt as though when we had Mane and Salah, we had that pace, but we've also got Diaz with that pace as well. We've got Núñez now with that pace to go alongside Salah. So if someone does drop in that hole, whoever it may be, Bobby Firmino on that occasion, you've got the movement in behind. So I think that's going to be a constant threat of somebody like Luis Diaz. I think he's brave as well. You know, he took a couple of big challenges. What about the goal he scored against Brighton away this season? He's got that bit of aggression, that bit of bravery as well. So I'm excited to see Luis Diaz this season. It's nice to see him get a pre-season under his belt for Liverpool.
It's also they've got a different option this season. The wingers, we call them wingers. That, you know, you're probably looking at Diaz and Salah being
wide
the two
forwards.
the wide forwards. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. But you know, Núñez now, he plays in between the sticks. He's a bit of an old-fashioned centre forward, a bit like yourself. He likes to get in the box, score goals. He doesn't really want to come and sort of link up. And for a flying winger, for a flying wide forward, you know, they're the ones putting the balls in the box.
And a classy fullback like yourself, Jason, as well. You'd have found
Trent
him countless times, wouldn't you?
Well, Trent, we've seen James Milner found him with a lovely flighted ball. You know, he gets in between the centre halves and asks questions.
He causes a little bit of havoc in the penalty, and now we've not had that, have we, before?
No.
So I think there was one example first half. The cross came in, it might have been Milner left-hand side. There's two defenders battling with Núñez. So if they're going to do that, that will free up a little bit of space, maybe for Diaz to get the second ball. Salah, if teams are going to be so worried about someone like Núñez when the crosses are coming in.
We'll come back to Núñez in just a moment, but as you said, Jason, right towards the end there was an image of a competitive Jurgen Klopp who thinks his team should have had a penalty. You think perhaps when he sees it again he might reconsider?
To be honest, I'm just picking up that there's a lot of bodies there for the referee, you know, to kind of get a good angle of what's going on. The ball's running away from Diaz. It's a last-ditch tackle. And to be honest, I think he touches the ball. I think you see it there. He just gets a toe on it. You know, from everybody else's angle, I'm sure around the pitch at pitch level, you know, from that angle, it looks like a penalty, doesn't it? That's probably the angle Jurgen Klopp's seeing. You know, but that competitive nature, it just doesn't leave you. You know, we talk about it in whatever game you're playing, whether it's pre-season, Legends, first team, whatever it may be. You know, that will to win never leaves an elite sports person. And, you know, the game was played with such a good attitude and a good pace. It was kind of one of them games I know we say it doesn't matter results in pre-season, but it kind of tonight, it kind of did a little bit, didn't it?
You could see that.
Yeah.
Not a pen, though,
it wasn't a pen. It wasn't a pen.
Let's go on to the first half then, and Salzburg got the goal, but before they got the goal, there was just a little bit of a warning, Jason, that Liverpool's defence wasn't quite as on point as it might have been.
We spoke, didn't we, about the centre-half positions before kick-off, and we were talking about the four centre-halves, and we were laughing about Virgil being the centre-half and the other three fighting it out. What he brings is communication and organisation, and I do feel when he's not on the pitch and it's two of the other three, whether it's Gomez, Konate, Gomez, Matip, whoever it may be, I do feel it lacks a bit of communication and organisation, and I think it showed in that first half with Konate and Gomez. I think at times the communication let them down, so maybe one was too deep, the line wasn't good enough, and also they were getting pulled apart, and you know that's down to communication. But saying that, he did go off. Sesko, he's a good player. You know, he's a really, really good player, and we were saying he's on the lips of a lot of clubs at the minute, isn't he? You know, he run them ragged at times in that first half. So that was just a bit of a worry for me, but there was warning signs there, you know, before the goal come.
Some miss, wasn't it? What about the miss after? A great save from Adrian, and I thought he made a similar save. We didn't make many mistakes defensively against Leipzig. Adrian makes a big save at 1-0 just before half